You know the best ways to prevent falls as you age? Want to learn more about how PT can help? This information is important for all of us as we age, but is especially important for caregivers and people living with Alzheimer's disease. So join me on today's episode as we learn about low cost, low impact ways to stay strong with two amazing physical therapists who will answer these questions. And be sure to stay tuned to the end to get a free checklist to help you keep track of these 4 exercises. Welcome back to This Is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm Dr. Melissa Batchelor, and I am a nurse practitioner, and I wear a lot of different hats in my work, including hosting this weekly podcast to bring you news and information on aging, caring for someone living with Alzheimer's disease, and a wide range of topics that I hope will help move us towards becoming an age-friendly world. Because when things are age-friendly, they're friendly for everyone. So if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support the podcast is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform you've tuned in on today. Because no matter how old you are today, we are all aging, and these issues are going to become increasingly important. If you're a millennial, there are things that need to be in place when you reach the age of 65. So we have about 20 to 25 years to get these things in place to help you age with the support and choices that will help you, just like the people that are 65 today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help get the information out to help more people dealing with these issues. But right now, let's get going on this week's episode. So now let's dive into this week's episode where we're talking about the top 4 exercises for aging and Alzheimer's disease. I'm joined today by 2 amazing physical therapists, Dana Logan and Carol Lewis. Welcome, ladies. And so maybe you guys could introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Carol Lewis. I've been a physical therapist for almost 50 years, and I love it. My area is geriatrics. I actually wrote the first textbook in my field, in the field of physical therapy and geriatrics, and I've edited a journal for 40 years on geriatric rehabilitation, and it really is my love, something that I have a lot of passion for. And I just think exercise, and more we're reading, is how important it is for everybody. So that's me.
Good.
Go ahead, Dana.
All right, my name is Dana Logan. I'm a physical therapist as well. I've been practicing for about 23 years, and I was fortunate enough to learn my geriatric training from Carol's textbook. And my very first job as a physical therapist was with Carol, which was such a tremendous opportunity. And I fell in love with geriatric care through Carol and have developed my career around treating the older person as well. And I've done some teaching on the side in the area of geriatrics. And then I am still a practicing clinician in outpatient settings. But the more I practice, my love is using prevention to help with common conditions with aging. So exercise can help prevent or limit the impacts of many common conditions with aging. And that's what I am really passionate about now, is educating people on how to use exercise to just age better.
Well, that's great, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So I guess the first question to both of you is kind of, why is strength and balance exercises more important as we age compared to
Yes. Well, part of the problem is, as you age, each decade, and we're talking 40s, you start to lose strength. You lose several percent, and then it goes up as you get into your 70s, the amount of strength that you lose. So if you don't exercise, you will lose this strength. If you exercise, you won't lose the strength. Same thing with balance. Our balance responses get less as we get older, so you need to work on those. And then it does things for you. You want to go over some of the things it does, like prevent falls? You want to go over the list, Dana?
Yeah, well, I think often we think about cardiovascular exercise as the most important part of exercise. We're all kind of brought up on thinking we need to get our heart rate up to achieve valuable exercise. That's one component of exercise. But more and more in the literature, it's showing that actually keeping your muscles strong around your joints is what's going to keep you safe later into life. So things like getting up out of a chair, getting up and down off a curb, climbing stairs, those require strength. And if we don't continue to build our muscles and keep our muscles strong and our joints strong through strength training, we will lose that ability. And that puts us at higher risk for falling, which is, as we know, one of the most common things that happen as we get older, and one of the most common reasons people end up losing their ability to live independently. So strength training, I think, is invaluable as we age, to prevent falls and to keep our function, to allow people to be functionally independent.
But it also helps with cognition, longevity, overall function. So, socialization, quality of life, I can't underestimate those either.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And a lot of the things that you're talking about, it's strength, but also balance. Because if you are walking, I actually just was coming home from dinner last night and saw this curb was leaving the restaurant, and the curb was not normal. Like, it was higher. It had the dip, so it had the accessibility piece, but the curb was too high for the step down. And, I didn't fall, but just the ability to recover when something unexpected happens like that. I mean, that's really why strength and balance are so important, and then right across the street, they had done it right. So I have like this comparison video. In fact, maybe I'll just put it in here for B-roll.
I like it.
But it just wasn't properly done. But so that's why balance and strength from like just a day-to-day practical perspective is important, so that you can kind of handle those little unexpected things, but have enough strength and enough balance so that you don't fall.
And you think about that at your age, you're young still, and having that reaction, but every decade of life, those reactions, that balance component in the strength diminishes. So even more important to emphasize that going forward, so you can recover from those little trips and falls.
Right. I've often said you need to get reacquainted with the floor.
It's true.
You haven't been down there for a while, like a fall can really not be so fun.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about kind of how physical therapists can help us to maintain our strength and balance and function. Let's talk about your role in helping people with this.
Well, I think almost anybody should go to a physical therapist. Once you're past the age of 70, go to a therapist, find out if you can work on your posture. Sometimes that contributes to falls. You can look at your balance, your strength, your flexibility, your endurance. They can evaluate all of those. And if you have a deficit, which most people do and they don't know about it, you can work on a program before it becomes fractured hip. You've fallen and you've broken your hip. So I really think, getting an evaluation by a therapist is key. And then I do think you can tell just by how people do certain things. So there's a timed up and go or get up and go test that you can actually do, where you get up from a chair and you walk a distance, you turn around, you walk back, and you sit down. And you should be able to do it in a very short period of time, within 9 seconds, to show if you are set up for possible disability. It also predicts falls. So you really need to do it relatively quickly. So, you can see from these films that there's a good way to do it. And then there's a way that shows, wow, this person is doing it slowly. They need a little help. And that is somebody that really is a perfect candidate for physical therapy. And if you can't do that test quickly, if you do it really slowly, if you have trouble turning, getting up from a chair, go see a physical therapist.
Yeah, I love that, because you can do that on your own, and you can really, it's an easy thing to assess your own ability. Or the other component is, if you notice you're even just having trouble getting up out of a chair without using your hands to really assist, or you're struggling going up and down stairs, I think getting to a physical therapist at that point is so much more important than waiting until you can't do it or you have a fall with one of those movements. But if you start noticing that you're struggling with just some day-to-day activities, go see a physical therapist, because they will, like Carol said, fully assess your strength, your posture, your mobility, see where the deficits are for you specifically, and tailor a program to address your deficits so you can improve on those functional movements.
And I Can I give a personal example? So here I am 60, when I was 65, I'm thinking, man, I'm doing great. You know, I ran the Marine Corps marathon, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden I start tripping. You know, I even had a couple falls. And I thought, me? I teach this stuff. I work with patients every day. And then I had myself tested and I was weak in certain muscles that I didn't even pay attention to. So for the last 5 years, I've been on a strengthening program, and knock on wood, I've had no trips, no falls. Everything's better. Even though you're functioning at a level, you know, get it checked out, because you might have something that eventually can cause some really big problems.
Right. And I think one thing too is like when you go to physical therapy, it's almost like a personal trainer. Like, you know, you have someone who's really looking at you overall functionally, not like that they don't want you to become like a gym rat. But it's kind of also that once you get in there and you're assessed, you're going to go a couple of times a week for a certain period of time, but they're going to give you the program then to continue at home. But it's a good way to kind of get started because you have that accountability. You know that the physical therapist is there waiting for you, you know. And so I do think it's a good way to kind of jumpstart, you know, getting back into exercise if you haven't, if you never have, or if you need to.
And often we do what we're good at. Like people will continue, if they're strengthening on their own, they strengthen what they already have been doing or what's already strong. And the physical therapist can actually do the full evaluation and maybe find those little areas that need some work, and show you new ways to strengthen. And then, like you said, Melissa, you will definitely get some homework and need to continue on with those exercises on your own, but making sure you're strengthening the right things.
All right. So I think the get up and go test at home is a great way to kind of do like your own assessment and then make that appointment with your primary care provider, you know, to get in there and see if a PT referral would be helpful for you. If you have a great story behind a product or service you've created for older adults or their families, or maybe you have educational content you'd like to share and position that product or service in front of an engaged target demographic. If so, I'd like for you to know that you can now become an episode partner with me, and you can learn more about this by visiting my website at melissabphd.com. Now we're going to move into talking about, so if you can't go to PT or you're not quite there, or you're at home maybe with a loved one who has Alzheimer's disease, you know, let's talk about kind of the 4 best exercises that you can do at home together. These are, I think these are great tips. They're low cost, they're low impact. And so why don't we just dive into those, into the top 4 exercises to do?
Well, let's start with sit to stand, because I think sit to stand, we've talked about it already a little bit. It's such a functional movement. We do it so many times during the day, but we can cheat it. We can often use our hands to really push ourselves up, and we don't really realize that our legs are getting weak doing that movement, and that maybe we're not even able to do it without upper extremity assistance. So,
you know, there's a great cheat too. People may not use their hands on the arms, but they put their hands on their legs.
yes.
All right, that's using your arms. All right, people don't think so, but that is. If you have to put your hands on your legs, then you can't get up off a chair by yourself.
That's a great point. So you can test yourself and just see if you can stand up without putting your arms across your chest and stand up without using your hands to assist you. If you can't do that, and you should really be able to do that multiple times in a row.
Multiple times, like 10 times.
Like 10 times, yes. And if you can't, then a sit to stand exercise and a progression is a great way to do it. And we have somebody demonstrating how to start with this and moving through a progression. So first, if you can't do it without using your hands, go ahead and practice with your hands, using your arms to help push you up, and on the way down to lower you slowly, so you're not just plopping back in the chair. And then as you get a little bit better, a little less hands, maybe no hands on the way down. Once you can achieve sit to stand without using your hands, go ahead and practice with your arms across your chest and do that multiple times. And then a progression from there is like a staggered stance, sit to stand. So one foot is in front of the other, and that foot that is in front is almost acting just as a kickstand. So you're really biasing the leg that's in back, and you're using more unilateral strength. It's a more challenging way to do it. So do that with each foot in front. And then after you can achieve that, the most challenging one, which is very hard, is a single leg sit to stand. Now, if you can do a single leg sit to stand and multiple times on each leg, you are good to go. But that is something to work towards. So, even if you are working with, if you're the caretaker for somebody with Alzheimer's, have them, sit to stand is something you can incorporate in your day to day. You can have them stand up and reach for something, a glass of water, or you can just have them stand up to water plants, or maybe stand up out of a chair to get something off of a high shelf. There's ways to incorporate that as not necessarily sitting there and doing 10 repetitions as an exercise, but making it a functional activity that they are doing through the day. So sit to stand is one of my go-tos, and I love it. It's really valuable for strengthening.
And for it to be really strengthening, you need to feel like the last one you do is the last one you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are working with someone who has Alzheimer's, try to get them, if they tell you, or if they act like they're really tired after doing a couple, might be it. All right. But you can do them too. All right. So while they're, watching television, why don't you try? And again, if doing it without your hands 10 times seems easy, try the kickstand or try one leg, but you need to feel fatigued, and that'll keep you strong as well.
Yeah. Well, and to me, like the most important reason to do this one is because you don't have to necessarily try to sit and stand out of a chair. You need to be able to sit and stand off the toilet. So that's important to everyone to be able to do that independently. So definitely the sit and stand is one.
You will see the results. You'll be able to do more things.
Mm-hmm.
It won't happen tomorrow. It could take months, maybe even 2, but you will see it. So you have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's one of those things, just kind of do it every time there's a commercial. Just, just needs to be forethought of mind. And by the way, also too, we have a checklist that people can download, and we're going to I'll put the link in the description for this. But each of these 4 exercises has a little checkbox so that people can track how often they're doing these things.
Yeah,
so
it's good to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. So second exercise.
You want me to do the single leg stand?
I think single leg stands, yes.
All right. So this is such a great exercise. It's used as a screen. So if you can't stand on one leg for 5 seconds without holding on, you're at high risk of an injurious falls. This is a study done back in the 90s. So that's a good test for yourself. People think they can do it, and then when they actually sit there and try to do it, they realize they can't. So, try with the person you're working with to stand on one leg and see if they can do it at all. Once you touch somebody or something, it's not the same. You have to be able to do it without touching anything. So what you do is you try to stand on one leg, and as you can see in the pictures, you're using both hands. And then you do what I call piano fingers. So you're touching with both hands, but not constantly. So you're like you're playing the piano. And then you do you just do the same one finger on each hand, and then you go to one hand. So you do the one hand touching regular, one hand touching with piano fingers, then one hand with just one finger. And then your goal is to be able to stand just on one leg. Now, one of the things that you might want to keep in mind is if you can entertain somebody enough for them to do it for a minute is not only good for your balance. There was a study that just had people train on one leg for a minute, and it really improved the strength in the leg that was being trained, and it prevented falls. But the other thing, the same researcher found, named was Sakamoto, is that if you stand on one leg for a minute, 3 times a day, it's as if you walked for 3 miles. All right. So the pressure on your hip actually improved osteoporosis of that hip. So you can make the bone stronger in that hip. So not only does it improve your balance, it actually will make your hip stronger so that if you do fall, you won't break the hip. So it's a great exercise. But try it for a minute with both hands to start, and then fingers, and then eventually one hand, then no hand.
Right. And I think this is good information too for people that work desk jobs. I think, one of the ways we got reconnected was because I had done a video, about different exercises you could do, but it was because of sitting during COVID. Like my hip is still, gives me a fit. In fact, I was just sitting here going, I probably should stand up. Yeah, but it's amazing how important your hips and hips. I'd never really thought about hip strength,
Oh,
until all of a
so
sudden it's hurting
important.
all the time. And it's like, and I went to PT for it. And, so now I have my exercises, but it does make a big difference. But it is interesting that just standing on one foot for a minute is equal to walking, for 3 miles or an hour. So what is number 3?
I
Go
think
ahead, Dana.
I think going on to another type of balance is more dynamic balance, which is balance with movement. And we use what's called tandem walking, which is kind of like you're walking a tightrope, one foot right in front of the other. So you want to go heel to toe. And in the video, you can see, you want to try to really keep your feet angled forward. The subject we have in the video, she is wanting to like toe out a little bit to enhance her base of support to make it a little bit wider. That's a little bit of a cheat. So when you are doing this, really cue the person you're working with to try to go one foot right in front of the other. And a good cue really is like somebody's walking a tightrope or maybe doing a sobriety test. So that most people can relate to one of those two things. And it's hard to do. It takes a lot of stability through the center of your body. It works your core, it works your balance. But you can start in a hallway, having somebody hold onto the wall with a couple of fingers and just using their fingers to provide a little bit of balance. So you don't want them to really be leaning on the wall, but just a light finger touch can do a lot to enhance the quality of the movement. And then when somebody's able to do that, they can release their fingers. And arms out to the side is a little bit more of, again, you get a little wider base of support. They can start there, but eventually you'd like them to have their arms across their chest to do this. Now you'll see our subject moving forward and backwards. I like to do both directions because sometimes in life, we do need to be able to turn around or move backwards, take a step backwards. And often people really get tripped up when they have to walk backwards. So practicing forward movement and backward movement. And in the video, the last step, which I think is pretty challenging, but you can work this with somebody, is while they're walking, they turn their head. And what that does is eliminates one of your balance systems. Like we rely on our vision, we rely on our inner ear, we rely on our joints, like what's called proprioception in our joints, which is our ability to know where we are in space without looking. When you're moving your head side to side, you're really kind of messing up your vision a little bit, and it challenges your inner ear. So you're working your balance systems differently when you turn your head and you're walking. So that's a more advanced way. You'll see it's a very challenging exercise, but some people are able to do it. But I think starting just with the tandem walking, one foot right in front of the other. And when you're working with different people with different levels of cognition, a lot of people will understand, like, let's still walk a tightrope, or let's, something like that, making it a little bit more of a game. You can practice that type of movement with somebody.
Yeah. So
even put carpenter tape too, so they can have something to walk on.
Yes, you can give them a visual cue so they can actually align in the floor, whatever it is. Yes.
So it also makes me think of another way to notice, like if you're an adult child with an aging parent and you're walking down the street and talking to them, because it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't walk and look at you and talk, or they appear to be off balance by doing that. That might be a sign as an adult child to say to your parent, might be time, let's, try to get like an evaluation for PT, because that's exactly what you're talking about doing. You're not necessarily walking tandem, but it's still that ability to walk and turn your head.
Yeah.
Keep your balance.
That's
great suggestion. Love it.
Yeah. Very good.
And so number 4.
Number 4 is heel raises. So those calf muscles are really important. All right. If you don't have good, strong calf muscles, you'll fall on your face. So the going up on your toes, doing a heel raise is a great exercise. You can just do the heel raises up and down on the toes. One study had people doing it 100 times and just doing that. And 100 is a lot. But if you, again, do it as many times as you can at a commercial, these commercials these days are so long, you might get all 100 in. But, try to do it a couple times doing that. Now, once you get good at that, you can then do it on one leg. And if somebody can do it on one leg, and you can use your hands for support. And so then eventually till you do it one hand and then no hands, that's great. But oftentimes it's very difficult to get from 2 feet to 1 foot. So one way you can do that is to go up on both feet and then let the other foot take it away and then go down on the other foot. A little complicated. If that is too complicated, which it might be, it's just, you're really going to get the benefits by just going up and down as high as you can for as many times as you can. And that's really such a good and important one as well.
Yeah, I think that's also an easy one to build into when you're standing in line somewhere, waiting. Well, so since we've talked a little bit about some practical strategies, we'll conclude the day by talking about some, just a couple of other things about ways that people can build in activity and balance and strength training into their everyday.
I think a classic one that we often use is for people when they're standing on one leg is do it while you're brushing your teeth. I like doing it as an exercise so you can time yourself, but sometimes people just are busy or aren't going to take the time to do it. But if you stand on one foot and brush your teeth in the morning on one foot, in the evening on the other foot, that at least you're getting something in for standing on one leg.
Yep. Also, I'm a big fan of sticky notes.
Yeah.
You see them throughout my house and my patient's house, that says, toe ups. So, once you've gone to the bathroom, there's a note that says toe ups and you do 10 toe ups before you walk out the door. So if you have sticky notes that remind you to do these throughout the day, you'll do them. So I like that one.
And I think the other thing I love telling people is for sit to stands is if you've been sitting for a little while reading the paper or watching TV, when you get up to go do your next task, sit back down and stand up repetitively 10 or 15 times before you go on to your next task.
Mm-hmm. And then a checklist is always good to have a checklist. So we're going to give them one, right?
Yes, we are. Yep. So the link to get the download is in the description here. And then there's one thing, you guys, we forgot to mention is that you have a podcast. So
aren't you good? We're terrible.
So
you remembered it. We
did. We're very good at promoting ourselves. Yeah.
So tell everybody how they can find you and learn more about the great exercises to do as we age.
So go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, we do. We started our own YouTube channel and podcast called Exercise for Aging Well, and you can find us. We can put the link in the description. Is that okay, Melissa? Yeah. And Carol and I started this really as a project out of love and commitment to what we do, and we just want to share good information to all of you about how we can use exercise, and especially exercise that has been proven in the literature to help with improve certain conditions with aging. So you can find us on YouTube. We have a website as well, and that's exerciseforagingwell.com. And again, we can put that in the description.
All right. Well, thank you both for being. Did you have something else to say, Carol, before?
Oh, no. Thank you for letting us share all this information. It's been great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for all you do. I love your website and YouTube. It's wonderful. You're everywhere. I love it.
And your information is really, really invaluable.
Yes,
so
it is. It is.
It takes a lot of work. We know that. So thank you for all you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be on your podcast soon. So I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm excited.
And I'm already thinking to myself, okay, probably when I brush my teeth, I need to be standing on one foot.
That's why I got the one with the time.
We all get something. Yeah, we all get something from all of these different episodes. So thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. You can check out other episodes on this platform or visit my website at melissabphd.com. Thanks to listeners like you, in the first 18 months of This Is Getting Old, we have reached a ranking of top 10% globally, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support in making that happen. I'm also really excited to let you know that you can now work with me directly, either one-on-one or you can join one of the groups that I coach. particularly if you're an adult child dealing with an aging parent or a caregiver trying to manage the complexities of someone living with Alzheimer's disease. In the show notes, you can also find information about how to reach out and contact me directly, and I hope to work with each of you very soon as we discover and share more ways to make the world more age-friendly for everyone. My website also has information about how to contact me for speaking engagements, or if you have someone you'd like to recommend as a show guest for This Is Getting Old. If you have a product or service in the aging space that you would like to advertise and or sponsor an episode, there's more information about that on my website. And you can also find books and courses that I developed and learn more about the products and services that I recommend. So don't forget, if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support it is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform that you've tuned in on today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help increase my rating and my rankings, and also help other people find the podcast. I look forward to reading your reviews and hearing from you.